Hi everyone. So this week we're going to go through talking about percents, decimals, and fractions. We're going to do just some computations here in this section just to give you some practice as we go through this in the other part of the course, MAT 143. So without wasting too much time, we're going to compute a bunch of these examples and talk about how you would compute each of these examples by hand. Obviously you could use a calculator in some cases, but it's good to understand how each of these things come about so that you know that you're converting things the right way. And so we're just going to go through some examples in this video. First of all, when you convert a decimal to a fraction, you need to just count the number of decimal places and then rewrite the number with a factor of 10 in the denominator with that many zeros behind it. So for example, 0.1, that has one decimal place, so we write it as 1 over 10. 1 with 1 0 after it. 0.54 has two decimal places, so we write it as 54 over 1 with 2 zeros after it. And so this is how we'll write decimals as fractions. Here 2.65 has two decimal places, so this is going to be 265 over 1 with 2 zeros behind it. Here we have three decimal places, so we can write this as 42 divided by 1 with 3 zeros. Now in order to reduce fractions, we want to look for numbers that will divide evenly into the numerator and the denominator. So our previous answers were 265 over 100. 265 and 100 are both divisible by 5, so we can divide the top and bottom by 5. 5 goes into 26 5 times, and then into 15 3. 5 goes into 100 20 times. There are no other common factors between these two numbers, and so this is in its reduced form. We can do the same thing for 42 over 1,000. 42 is divisible by 2. That will give us 21. 1,000 divided by 2 is 500. And so again, this is the reduced form. When converting a fraction to a decimal, divide the two numbers and then round if necessary. So if we want to convert 15 over 28 to a decimal, well, we want to divide 28 divided into 15. Now we know this is going to be a decimal, and so we can write some zeros as placeholders here. 28 will not divide into 15, but it will divide into 150. And it will divide into 150 5 times. We write our decimal point here. It doesn't divide into 15, so we can write a 0 above it. 5 times 28 will give us 140, and then we subtract. We bring down this next 0. 28 will go into 100 3 times. 3 times 28, 84. 28 times 3. 8 times 3 is 24. 3 times 2 is 6, plus 2 is 84. We then subtract. We're left with 16. We can bring 0 down again. Here we'll have another 5. 140. Now we want to round to the nearest hundredth. The nearest hundredth is the second decimal place. And so we only need to go to 3 decimal places here. Because this third decimal place is 5 or greater, we round up. And so 15 over 28 is approximately equal to 0.54. If we start with a mixed number and want to convert it to a decimal, we first need to convert to a fraction. To convert a mixed number to a fraction, we multiply the denominator of the fraction times the whole number and then add the numerator. So 5 times 6 is 30. 30 plus 1 is 31 over 5. And now to convert as a decimal, into a decimal we divide. 5 goes into 31. 5 goes into 31 6 times. 6 times 5 is 30. We subtract. 5 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. We're left with no remainder here. And so 6 1/5 is equal to 6.2. Whenever you convert from a decimal to a percent, you move the decimal place 2 places to the right and then add the percent sign. This is pretty straightforward. 0.365, we're just going to move this decimal place 2 places to the right and add the percent sign so that we get 36.5%. Same thing here with negative 1.345. Move it 2 places to the right and add the percent sign. And so we get negative 134.5%. Notice numbers that are greater than 1 will lead to percentages greater than 100. Numbers less than 1 have percentages less than 100. If we want to convert from a decimal or from a percent to a decimal, we move the decimal 2 places to the left, and then we drop the percent sign. So here, 95.6%. We move this decimal place 2 places to the left, and then just drop that percent sign. And this gives 0.956. Same thing here, we move it 2 places to the left, and then drop the percent sign. So 280% becomes 2.80. Finally, when we want to convert a percent to a fraction, we first want to convert that percent to a decimal and then convert the decimal to a fraction. So 32%, to change that to a decimal, we're just going to move the decimal point 2 places to the left, drop the percent sign. This is the same thing as 0.32. And then going back to the very first thing we did, if we want to convert this to a fraction, this is 32 over 100. We can reduce this fraction. Here they're both at least divisible by 2. We find we have 16 and 50, still divisible by 2. And so the reduced form is going to be 8 over 25. We can do the same thing here, 165%. If we convert that to a decimal, it would be 1.65, which as a fraction is 165 over 100. We can then divide top and bottom by 5. We get 33 over 20. 5 goes into 165. 5 goes into 16 3 times. 3 times 5 is 15. Subtract. Bring this next number down. We just get the same thing. Hopefully this video will help you solve computationally some of the problems that are in the first unit in MAT 143.